Okay, hello everyone. My name is Roman. I'm CEO of Eventee, and today we'll be talking in our webinar about how to use mobile application to boost engagement at your event. The whole webinar will take approximately 20 minutes. And by end of the webinar, there will be short technical break simply to switch my setup and cameras and so on. So do not run away. There will be still some follow-up. If you have any questions during the webinar, do not hesitate to write the questions on the right side next to the video. There is a chat, and as I mentioned, by end of the webinar, I will have time to answer all your questions. So that's about the webinar and a little bit about me and my company. The most important part of this slide, this is not a sales pitch. All the information that I'm sharing with you today is based on our experience and experience of our customers, but it's fully transferable to any solution that you will find on the market and will suit your needs. So don't worry, this is not a sales pitch. The other thing why I'm showing you this slide is that I wanted to show you why I feel qualified to even talk about this topic. We are on the market since 2019 and our application was used by over 1 million of attendees. Many our customers and attendees were kind enough to share their feedback with us, and I was able to gather all the information and build this webinar based on that information for you. So what we saw in our data, and sadly keep seeing even today, is that there are customers buying one of the most expensive licenses that we sell, and out of 3,000 attendees, just 3 people are using the application. On the other hand, we have a similar customer, similar license, but 4,000 attendees are using the application, and we didn't understood why. What we saw overall, just to give you some feedback, the best you can do with the application on average is 65 to 75% of adoption rate. So that means that maximum 75% of attendees in general conferences and events will be using the application overall. Do not beat yourself over higher numbers. But the truth is that there are some exceptions. We do have some customers that were able to achieve more than 75%. One of them even achieved 92%. And the reason was that they skipped all the paper brochures. There was no information on the website. Like there was information on the website, but there was no agenda and so on. So they simply said to the audience, hey, if you want to know anything about the agenda and all the other information, if you'd like to communicate with us and with other attendees, you need to use the application. There will be no paper brochure. There will be no other way to get all the info about the event. So I'm not sure if all the audiences are ready for this approach, but this is one of the exceptions, how to beat the numbers. So even 90% is possible. So this is the big topic. This is the big one. Why are attendees even downloading the application? When we asked them, 80% of all of them said, we download the application to have all the info in one place. We don't want to find something in email, the other thing on the website, something in the brochure, and some mix of these information will be in the application. So they would like to have easy to understand agenda and all the remaining information in the application. That's one of the 2 reasons. The second one, for most of the commercial events, is networking, because people usually go to events for 2 reasons only: to educate themselves and to expand their business network. So probably the most requested feature of the application, next to passive information about the agenda and so on, is the B2B networking, usually. But you need to tell them that there is the application. And what I mean by that is that email is not enough. We live in age of information overload. Imagine that you are attendee and you work daily with email. You have tens of emails from customers, business partners, and so on. And then suddenly every 3 days you are sending emails about your event. It's very easy to get distracted by the work. It's very easy to simply miss your email. And if we are talking just about the topic of the mobile application, do not fully rely just on the email. You need to remind your audience that there is the application during the event. And this is very important. Um, when your audience arrive to the venue, have some QR codes placed around the check-in area. Tell your employees at the check-in to simply remind the people that there is the application. You can use check-in applications that automatically send reminder for downloading the application after the check-in process. Tell your moderators to mention the application during the event so people can vote, people can use the networking, people can rate the speaker, things like that. Also, what I saw and was really interesting is that you can put the QR code to download the application on the projector on the screen as a slide during the break between sessions. This is also a nice touch, and all these small details can really move the needle. You can go from 20% of adoption rate to 60% just by doing this, what I just mentioned. So basically, what are the benefits of using the application, right? Because it's some extra time and effort from your end, but are there any benefits basically for you as event organizer? Um, well, pre-event engagement is half the value, and what I mean by that is that if you share the application with the audience at least 1 or 2 weeks before the event, they have plenty of time to start engaging with the application. Um, and what I mean is basically the battle is won week or 2 weeks before the event, as I mentioned. That's the part of using the email and sharing the information about the application before the event itself. The remaining audience will of course download it during the event, but this is really important for you to start spreading the word at least 1 or 2 weeks before the event. Even mention the application on your website. Um, the other really big one, and this is based on case studies from our customers also, I found on the internet that usually people reply the survey or fill the survey um, in 10%, or the adoption rate of surveys is on average 10%. But I get different feedback from our customers. They usually say that maximum 3 to 5% of their audiences even check the email and fill the survey. So on the other hand, what you can do with the mobile application, you can catch the people when they are engaged, when they are active. So if you send the survey via push notification during the event or after the event, when everyone is still having and using the application, you'll have way higher numbers, way higher numbers. Um, Another case study from one of our customers is that they were using the surveys. Out of 500 attendees, usually 10 to 15 people filled the survey. And for them, most important thing to get the information from the audience was how was every single speaker doing, so they could evaluate this and invite the speaker for the next event. When they were using Eventee for the first time, the moderator mentioned multiple times during the event, hey guys, there is this application. We know that you are using it. Please rate the speaker so we know which speaker is the most favorite of this audience. And the best review will get this, famous book from this speaker for free. Something like that. And by doing so, 30% of the overall audience gave rating within the first hour of the event for the first speaker, and by end of the event they had hundreds of ratings for every single speaker. Way more data to collect compared to previous simple surveys sent by email. This is also a big one. This is my personal slide that I really like because this applies to me as well. and this is not from my head. You can search this number. It's quite publicly known information. Uh, Up to 75% of all the people, they are simply afraid to speak in the public. What I mean by that is that when you have Q&A sections after the session itself, and you rely only on the microphone, you may get very few questions, and the best questions will simply disappear. They will be never asked. So I highly recommend to use any kind of tool that will allow you to use questions or run questions digitally. It may be a mobile application, it may be a website, it doesn't matter. But try to give opportunity to ask the question to everyone in your audience. And the other benefit is that you can moderate the questions, so you have under control what appears on the stage and what question is being asked, because sometimes the most loud question may not be the relevant, or it may be even inappropriate if you use the microphone. So small topic also is the environmental cost. That's something that we need to cover. When I did the research, if you have a very simple brochure like 10 pages for 1,000 attendees, the cost may be somewhere around $1,000. Of course, it depends on the provider, but still, you need to print those brochures and deliver them, spread them during the check-in, and so on. And there is one more important thing I'd like to share with you. There was this customer sharing with me their experience. They struggled with last minute changes, not even last minute changes, but during the preparation of the event, speakers are changing the description, speakers are changing the time they will be appearing on the stage, speakers may change title of the presentation. Small details like this keeps their designer busy, because they finish the design of the brochure and within several days they need to do a change, then again and again and again. And this customer told me that they keep changing this for weeks, maybe months, and sometime before the event they say simply stop, there is no change possible because we need to print the brochures now. And sometimes even that is not good enough, because there may be some changes. And with the mobile application, you can very easily change anything in the agenda, any kind of information. You can send push notification that there is some change, so it's very easily communicated towards to the audience, to your attendees, and you don't need to do such a hassle with printing and everything. It's very easy. You go to administration, change few sentences, and that's it. You click publish, and everyone see the new version of the agenda. Then let's talk about the interactivity. As I mentioned multiple times during the webinar, you can use push notifications, and I highly recommend that, because you can use notifications to navigate your audience during the event. What I mean by that, again, two stories from our customers. One of them is customer running the event across 5 rooms, I think, and one of them was damaged. There was some issue with air condition. Previously, they would have to print some information on the door of the room that it was moved to the other room. They would have to connect to all moderators to spread the message after the presentations, during the break, and so on. It would be a mess. But with this, they simply send a push notification to all the audience. Hey guys, we are sorry for this inconvenience. In room number 3, the air condition is broken, so please attend another room next to this one. And even though not every single person is using the application, as I mentioned at the beginning, things like this are easily spread across attendees without need of telling every single one of them personally. So this is one of the case studies, and the other one is there was this event with one really big sponsor, and they wanted to promote the sponsor somehow. They had a stand, and what they did is they sent the push notification during the coffee break. Hey guys, there is this sponsor, let's say Eventee, and it's stand number 3. They are serving free coffee for you during the coffee break, do not hesitate to go there. There will be maybe some free merchandising, things like that. So visit the stand and tell us what you think. Um, Out of nowhere, hundreds of attendees gets this notification. Even though not all of them will be interested, it's very easily spread message across all your audience, and they noticed um, big crowds at the sponsors stand. So this works. I can highly recommend it. And as I mentioned previously, this is I'm repeating myself here. Last minute changes are not the problem, at least most of the times. There may be, of course, some rare cases, but when you have all the information digitally, doing any kind of change is as easy as accessing the administration, change the thing, and then hitting publish, and it's available to all attendees at your event. And also, I slightly covered this, but the best question of the day rarely comes from the loudest person, and this is true. Um, no matter what kind of application you use, it may be even Slido, which is a web application. Give your audience the chance to be part of the experience. What I mean by that, give them the chance to ask a question and connect with the speaker. I think that I speak as attendee now. It's really important for me. Um, when the topic is really interesting, I always love to have the option to ask the question and somewhat connect with the topic itself and the speaker as well. So now let's talk money. What's basically the ROI of using the mobile application at your event? Well, the obvious one is that happy attendee is returning customer, right? If you deliver a way better experience for the attendee, they will there will be way higher chance of their returning for the next event of yours. And let me give you one advice. When you are on the market, researching and choosing the right platform for you, do not consider just the what the salesperson is promising you. Do not consider just the access to the administration. What I mean by that, your point of view as enough information to get the overall picture about the product. I highly recommend to go to App Store and Google Play and see the reviews and read the reviews of previous attendees, what they think about the application, how they feel using it. Because if you choose application that has I don't know, a lot of features that you really need, but on the App Store they have like 2 maybe 3 stars, it will be crappy experience for your audience and maybe wasted opportunity. Because if the app is crashing or if it's too difficult to use, they may download it, but they won't be using it during the event. So uh, my point is, also check the perspective of the attendees when you are choosing the right tool for your event. And this is also a good one. Your event is now data driven. What I mean by that is that you have the survey data, you have the information about session rating. You know how many people were using the application, how many people enabled networking, how many messages was sent, what sponsor or partner was mostly viewed in the application. Things like that helps you to evaluate the overall event and the experience of attendees and make better event for the next year. And the data could be delivered in the volume that you were unable to achieve without this digital solution used by your attendees. Also, big one, you have new data points for your sponsors. You can tell them who was using the application, what people scanned the QR code of the partner. You can literally deliver them a lead gen platform, so they bring something from the event, not just the presence there and doing the promotion of their company, but you can give them real data. Simply, hey, 100 people viewed your profile, 20 people scanned the QR code, so here is the list of the people. Also, your banner was viewed this amount of times, things like this. may be important for the sponsor and gives you way higher leverage to either convince the sponsor to be at your event or convince him to pay you more money because you give him way more data and more valuable data uh, they can work with. Uh, I also covered this multiple times. Less time lost by last minute changes. When you use digital platforms overall, it's very easy to do any kind of change and publish it and deliver it to the attendees within minutes. So we were talking about what to do. Now let's cover in a few slides what not to do. And this is again really important one. This takes me or brings me back to the first slide of 3 attendees out of 3,000 slots available within the license. If you make the application optional instead of essential, you're wasting the opportunity, you're wasting your time and also the money of the application. If the application is not important for you, it won't be important for your audience. They will not be installing it and using it. Build the experience of your event around the platform, and that's the only way or the best way how you get the most or the best results. Also, what we see as a correlation in our data, the sweet spot of running the application and sharing it with the audience is 1 to 2 weeks before the event itself. If you share it 2 months before, people can simply postpone it and then forgot because it's not that important to deal with the application that many months before the event. And if you share it 2 days before the event, it may be not enough time for them to download it, check it, do the proper networking, and so on. So I highly recommend to share it between 7 to 14 days before the event. And what you should share or tell the audience is check the agenda and prepare your own schedule in case you have a more complex agenda with multiple simultaneous tracks, rooms, and so on. People can create their own agenda, check each description of the presentation, and simply build their own plan for the whole event. And also the other message that you should spread is start the networking and start preparing meetings at the event week before the event itself. Do not overdo the push notification. That's again something that we see over and over. If you send multiple push notifications during the day, you may force the user to turn off the push notification, and there will be no other way to reach them instantly. So be careful. On the other hand, I highly recommend to start using the notifications even before the event. If you run the application like 2 weeks before the event, after several days, you may send the first push notification saying something like, "Hey guys, thank you for downloading the application. Now it's time to do this, this, and that, like preparing the agenda and the networking and so on." So you can easily communicate with your audience even before the event using push notifications. But if you send push notification every 10-20 minutes, you may overdo it. People will turn it off, and you will struggle to reach out to them. So let's summarize what we were talking about during this webinar. What you should do and not to do at your event. Basically, before your event, you should communicate that the app exists. That's a very important one, and you would be surprised how many event organizers simply spread the email once and that's it, and they don't even bother to print the QR codes and so on. Make the application essential, agenda only in the application, tickets only in the application, build excitement with pre-event networking, things like that. During the event, remind people it's there, tell the moderators that they should spread the message on the break, after the presentation, and so on. Send push notifications lightly, use live polls, Q&As. Basically, use the application as your megaphone. That's a very important one. After the event, measure what happened, You have the data from session ratings, networking connections, sponsors, NPS, you name it. Feed all the data into your data collection tools and improve your event next year. You have the best opportunity by using any digital services like Eventee. And that's it for the whole webinar. So tell me, do you plan to change your decision and maybe use application for your next event? Um, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a chat next to the video. Share with me your questions and I'm more than happy to answer all of them. And now I'm going to switch cameras and the whole setup. See you soon.